By the time she was 20, she had sat inside a prison, waiting each day to hear if today was the day she would die too. She was 2 years old when her own father killed her mother. Everyone around her said the same thing again and again. This girl will never wear a crown. They were wrong, so wrong. This is the true story of Elizabeth, a little girl the world threw away, who grew up to become one of the most powerful queens who ever lived. If you think your life feels too broken, too small, too far from anything great, keep watching. By the end of this video, you will never think about your own story the same way again. Elizabeth was born in 1533. Her father was King Henry VIII, one of the most feared kings in history. Her mother was Anne Boleyn. The king wanted a son to take his throne one day. He got a daughter instead, and he never fully forgave her for it. Then, when Elizabeth was only 2 years old, her father did something almost unthinkable. He said her mother had done bad things, things she likely never did, and he had her killed. Overnight, everything changed for the little girl. The king said Elizabeth was not a true princess anymore. Her royal title was taken away. Her staff of servants became much smaller. The little princess, without any warning, became almost nobody in her own father's court. But here is the twist nobody expected. While the world tried to push her aside, Elizabeth was quietly becoming one of the smartest people in England. She learned Latin, Greek, French, and Italian. She studied history and deep thinking, subjects almost no woman of her time was ever allowed to learn. One of her own teachers wrote that her mind was as sharp as any man's, the highest compliment a teacher could give back then. Her father went on to marry 5 more times after her mother's death. With every new wife, Elizabeth's own place at court went up and down without warning. Through all of it, she learned a lesson that would later save her life. Watch everything closely and say almost nothing. As a teenager, she survived a dangerous scandal with a powerful man who tried to use her for his own plans. One careless word from her could have ended her whole future. She chose every word with great care, and she survived. Then came the moment that could have ended everything for good. Her half-sister Mary became queen. Soon after, people rose up against the crown. Even though Elizabeth had done nothing wrong, Mary's advisors were afraid she was secretly behind it. In 1554, Elizabeth was arrested and taken straight to the Tower of London, the exact same prison where her own mother had been killed years earlier. She was rowed in through a gate known as the Traitor's Gate. Most prisoners who entered through that gate never walked back out alive. Elizabeth is said to have refused to step off the boat at first. She sat down firmly on the cold, wet stone steps, saying loudly that she was no traitor. For weeks, she lived inside those walls, never knowing if each new day might be her last. No real proof was ever found against her. Eventually, she was set free. She had come within inches of death. for the second time in her young life. In November of 1558, Queen Mary died. According to an old story, Elizabeth was sitting quietly under a tree when royal messengers arrived, out of breath, to tell her that the crown was now hers. She was only 25 years old. Stop and think about everything she had already survived just to reach this moment. Her own mother's death, being pushed aside by her own father, time spent in the very tower built to destroy people just like her. The crown that so many had once said she would never wear was finally, at last, placed on her own head. The very first question everyone asked their brand new queen was simple: who will you marry? Kings and princes from across Europe lined up eagerly for the chance. Elizabeth said no to every single one of them, again and again, for the rest of her life. Some think she never forgot what marriage had done to the women in her own family. Others think she simply refused to hand England's power over to a foreign husband. Whatever her real reason was, she made a bold statement to her own parliament. She said she was already married, in a way, to her kingdom and to her people. She became known forever after as the Virgin Queen, ruling entirely on her own terms for her whole life, answering to no husband and to no king on earth. Her throne was never fully safe, not for a single day. She survived dangerous plots from her own royal relative, Mary, Queen of Scots, and eventually had to make one of the hardest choices of her whole reign, signing the order for that same relative's death. Then came the biggest test of her entire rule. In 1588, Spain sent one of the largest war fleets the world had ever seen, the mighty Spanish Armada, straight toward England, planning to take over the country completely. Almost everyone believed England had no real chance of surviving. Elizabeth refused to hide away in fear. She rode out herself to meet her soldiers at Tilbury, wearing armor over her royal dress, and gave a speech still remembered today. She told her soldiers she had the body of a weak and feeble woman, but the heart and stomach of a king. Against every expectation, skilled English sailors and violent ocean storms together destroyed the Spanish fleet. England won. Overnight, Elizabeth became a living legend. With England finally safe from invasion, something amazing began happening across the whole country. Art, theater, music, and exploring the world all grew quickly at once. William Shakespeare wrote and performed many of his most famous plays during her long reign. English sailors traveled further across the world's oceans than ever tried before, opening brand new trade paths that stretched around the globe. This exciting time became known as England's Golden Age, the moment a smaller, weaker kingdom turned into a real-world power, built carefully, year after year, under Elizabeth's steady rule. But behind that strong, confident public face, Elizabeth quietly carried a heavy, hidden weight. She ruled entirely alone, with no husband ever by her side to share the crushing weight of hard decisions. She faced constant threats against her own life, year after year. She watched trusted friends and advisors grow old and pass away, one after another, leaving her more and more alone as the years passed. In public, she stayed strong, calm, and endlessly confident. In private, almost nobody ever truly saw how lonely and tiring that crown really was to carry for so many years. In March of 1603, Queen Elizabeth I finally died at Richmond Palace. She was 69 years old, and she had ruled England for 44 remarkable years, one of the longest reigns in the country's entire history. She left behind no children of her own, and her death brought an end to an entire royal family line. But the England she left behind was far stronger, far richer, and far more confident than the scared kingdom she had inherited as a nervous 25-year-old. More than 400 years later, she is still remembered as one of the greatest rulers this world has ever known. She was once just a small child that people whispered would never truly matter. She lost her own mother before she could even remember her face. She sat alone inside a prison built to destroy people exactly like her, never knowing if she would live to see the next morning. If you had told that scared young woman, sitting quietly inside the Tower of London, that she would one day become one of history's greatest and most loved rulers, she almost certainly would not have believed a single word of it. But she became exactly that person anyway. Whatever people have said about you, whatever dark and hard chapter of life you may feel stuck inside right now, remember this one simple truth. The people that the world doubts the most are very often exactly the ones who go on to change that whole world. If this story moved you today, please like this video, subscribe for more true and inspiring stories just like this one, and share it with someone in your life who might need a little extra courage. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next story.